Hello there, and welcome to the Stay Off My Lawn podcast, where we'll have a little fun, lots of laughs, and discussions on the common sense that needs to be applied to a lot of today's world news issues. And now, the disclaimer. Stay Off My Lawn is not intended as legal, medical, or financial advice. Void where prohibited. No purchase necessary to win. Open to legal U.S. residents 18 or older in the contiguous 48 states. Any resemblance to anyone living or deceased is purely coincidental. Actual price may vary. Only use as directed. Not a member of FDIC. And now, here are your hosts, Mike and Richard.
Welcome to this week's episode of Stay Off My Lawn. It's January 21st. Some of the kids call it the 21st, 2025, and this is episode 101.
That's right, Stay Off My Lawn's over 100 now, by gum.
We are over 100, yeah. It's OT 1, I think now, or something like that.
Yeah, we're almost past whittling stage, of course, because you could lose a finger. That wasn't the wood.
Older than Jimmy Carter now, 101. So,
yeah,
because he only made it to 100. Yesterday was Inauguration Day, which, if you're a Trump supporter, may soften the blow that it was also Blue Monday. If you've ever heard of Blue Monday. I had not until yesterday.
I heard of it, but I can't for the life of me remember what it is.
We wanted to make it a surprise. It's a name given to a day in January, typically the third Monday of the month. This was done by a UK travel company called Sky Travel, and it's said to be the most depressing day of the year. I guess it's kind of like middle of winter. Everything's bleak, especially in the UK. I think they don't really get much sunshine in the wintertime. But the concept was first published in 2005 in a press release from the company, which claimed to have calculated the date using some sort of equation. What kind of equation you get from that? I have no idea. The third Monday of the month, we figured it out with using calculus. Somebody who had way
too much time on their hands.
That's what I'm thinking. You just needed to get a press release out, I think. I don't know. Whatever. But if you keep track of these sort of things, it's National Squirrel Appreciation Day today. You can only truly appreciate that with some honey barbecue sauce and maybe a side of potato salad.
No.
Which, it's a little greasy, but I mean, it's good food. It's also yesterday. Was it yesterday? Yesterday was actually National Idaho Human Rights Day. So if you know any humans in Idaho, give them a potato or something. I guess that would be the thing to do. I'm not sure.
It's what you do for, and don't give it to them from a distance. Hey, here's your. Those things hurt, by the way, in case you didn't know. They hurt a lot when you get hit with one of those.
It makes you say bad words like russet or something. I don't know.
Yes, they're not fun.
Not fun.
It's just slightly softer than a rock, but not by much.
Especially if they got those little nodules on them. New potatoes that are on there. It seems like that could put your eye out. And other national holidays this week. Thursday is National Pie Day, not P.I. That's March 14th, but P-I-E. So I guess you can have apple or coconut cream or whatever you want.
Or pizza.
Or pizza. Yeah, I didn't think of pizza. That's a good one. Friday is National Peanut Butter Day. If you're a fan of peanut butter, I guess you can go chunky or smooth, whatever you want to do. And of course, Saturday, you can sleep off the effects from this day, I guess, because it's National Irish Coffee Day. And normally that has a little bit of Bailey's in it, I guess. That's what I'm guessing. I don't know. So there you go. So now
I don't need the Irish coffee. Thank you very much.
You've got the reasons to celebrate this week. So
now we all know the special days all week. Oh wait, no, that's a new feature brought to you in part by. We have no idea.
We have no idea. Bailey's Irish Cream.
Nobody wants to sponsor that.
Not yet. I mean, there's always hope. There are some thankful people that see it as a holiday. The Biden crime family got pardoned the other day.
How do you do preemptive pardons? Somebody brought that up, and I'm going, I don't know that that's going to pass muster. And they went, they called it something. I went, that's what it is. When you give immunity to everything, it starts with an A, and the word just all of a sudden I go to say it and go, I shut the drawer. Come on, think of it. Neener.
Starts with an A. I'm trying to remember. Anyway, it's
not immunity. It's
amnesty.
Yes, thank you.
Is that the word?
Between the two of us, ding, 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 ding. We got the $64,000 question. Boy, that's
we can come up with a 7-letter word together any day. Really.
Yes, they said that's amnesty, and that's not something the president can do.
Yeah.
So we're going to see how this stuff works out, because if you didn't do anything wrong, what do you need a pardon for?
That's the question I've been asking all day.
Fauci.
Oh yeah, they were handing out.
Miley.
They were handing out.
You need those pardons. Why?
They were being gobbled up like gummy bears at a Weight Watcher meeting yesterday. But it was what was the January 6th committee? Everybody, which includes Cheney, Liz Cheney. Fauci, Mark Milley, and of course, all the Bidens. Which I guess if you give a preemptive pardon, does that mean you can go out and commit murder during that time frame and nobody can prosecute you? I mean, does it? I mean, these are for crimes
why it's
yet to commit.
To include any past crimes, or I mean, that's like giving, like, that's what they were saying was. Somebody brought that up yesterday. I don't remember who. It was somebody way smarter than I am. Hey, Rocky, look, we're going to give away a pardon. Anyway, I haven't got a clue, but he was calling it. This is actually amnesty, and that's not something the president can do.
No.
And he's pardoned 37 convicted murderers.
I saw that. I mean, what's the point of that? And where's he getting the list of these people? Does he know these people personally? I mean, I don't understand. It seems like, I think the whole pardon process, and I'm including Trump in all this, I think it's all gotten way out of hand in the last 20 years or so. We need to kind of like tone that back a little bit, because I think it's being abused now. But
yeah, that's not right. Well, that's in case that Trump gets back at him, and that's what the whole thing is about. And all the January 6 people and that were on the committee have all gotten pardons. Why? Did they do something they shouldn't have? Why would they need a pardon, per se?
That's the assumption. I mean, because innocent people don't need a pardon. I think you just said that.
No, exactly. It's like, no, I'm good. You don't need to give me one.
Yeah.
Funny, none of them have turned it down.
Yeah, I mean, if you're innocent, why would you just say, you know what, I don't need it. Go ahead, let them prosecute me because nothing ever happened. But then again, you've got the people in the January 6th jail right now that have been prosecuted without due process with their Fourth Amendment rights.
Oh, no, they've not even been prosecuted. They've not been charged with a single thing, and they've just been stuck in. That's a political prisoner.
Absolutely.
And by the way, in case anybody doesn't know, they have a $50 billion lawsuit against the government for this, and against the individuals who put them where they are, like the committee people, and the Department of Justice and the FBI. They've all been listed in this huge. And you know what? If I got to pay taxes on something, I'm okay paying that one.
Absolutely, because that's just wrong.
Was a injustice beyond all injustice.
Some of them
That's
lost
stuff third world countries do, not us.
Yeah, some of them lost 4 years of their life over all this. It's insane. But we'll get to some of that too here in a minute. But Trump has said he's going to declassify a bunch of stuff, JFK, RFK files, as well as MLK, which yesterday he made that announcement, which is kind of neat. It ended up being on MLK Day.
It was. Yeah, that was yesterday as well.
For me, I want the Roswell, New Mexico files to be released. I think that would at least put some of these UFO nutters to bed. It's like either nothing happened or something happened. I mean, I'd like to know what it was.
There's too many people that have seen essentially the same thing.
Yeah.
That don't know anybody else. Why would they all report seeing something that looked like little green men or whatever the hell
what year was that? It was 1947. Wasn't it 1947? Something like that. It was a long time ago. Might have been.
Yeah, it's been forever ago.
So, I mean, and just like the JFK files, I mean, who's it going to harm? Nobody is alive that was part of any of that process. Hardly anybody. If they are, they're like more lost than Biden is. I mean, what difference does it make at this point? Let everybody know what happened. I mean, why all the secrecy is what kind of gets me. And everybody who gets into office always preaches transparency, and it never happens. So,
yeah. Transparency to them is they've got a screen on it that goes, go ahead, you can kind of look through this if you want. Just try to find. Oh yeah.
Yeah. You got 3/4 of the page redacted. So I mean, yeah, whatever.
Yeah. It has who it's for and who it was to, and that's all that's on the page. The rest of it's all black lines.
Exactly. So I mean,
we gave it to you.
Yeah. They tried to do that with the January 6th stuff too. So there was a lot of redacted stuff, and I don't know. Anyway, if you never heard of the name Lorenzo Sewell, you weren't paying attention yesterday, but he was he gave a great prayer at the inauguration, and he had a lot of authenticity when he gave this, and it was really good, and I thought it was worth us playing. So here is
not to mention enthusiasm up the wahoo.
Absolutely. This is Pastor Lorenzo Sewell from 180 Church in Detroit, Michigan. Here he is.
Let us pray for our 47th president. Heavenly Father, we're so grateful that you gave our 45th and now our 47th president a millimeter miracle. We are grateful that you are the one that have called him for such a time as this, that America would begin to dream again. We pray that we would fulfill the true meaning of our creed, that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. We pray that you use our president, that we will live in a nation where we will not be judged by the color of our skin, but by the content of our character. Heavenly Father, in the name of Jesus, we are so grateful today that you will use our 47th president, so we would sing with new meaning, my country, 'tis of thee. Sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride, from every mountainside. Let freedom ring, and because America is called to be a great nation, we believe that you will make this come true. So let freedom ring. From the prodigious hilltops of New Hampshire, let freedom ring. From the mighty mountains of New York, let freedom ring. From the heightening Alleghenies of Pennsylvania, let freedom ring. From the snow-capped Rockies of Colorado, let freedom ring. From the curvaceous hilltops of California, but God, we're asking you not only that, let freedom ring from Stone Mountain, Georgia. Let freedom ring from Lookout Mountain of Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill and every molehill in Mississippi, from every state, every city, every village, and every hamlet. And when we let freedom ring, we will be able to speed up that day where all of your children, black men and white men, Protestant and Catholic, Jew and Gentile, will be able to sing in the meaning of that old Negro spiritual, free at last, free at last. Thank you, God Almighty. We are free at last. If you believe where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. Come on, put your hands together and give your great God great glory.
That is normally not my style of preaching or whatever, but you know what? He made my heart smile. That's the best way I could put that.
It's just like you do. He started out here, and then it moved up, and then all of a sudden it just kept getting ramming speed. He just kept getting. He put all into it. I love. It made it. We were talking earlier. The one I believe it was the Catholic priest was like, "Oh my Lord! If you had any more enthusiasm, we would have to put a mirror under your nose to see if you were
I've seen a worm yawn and have it be more exciting than that Catholic priest. I mean, it's just.
This guy, I just couldn't help. I went, oh Lord, he's going, and then he just kept winding up, and it's like, I'm actually kind of enjoying this.
You know, the message was so good. I mean, I think that's what it is. It's not necessarily the delivery. The message was perfect. It couldn't have been.
Was right on with what's going on in the country. There has been a flip. I told one of our good listeners, Fred, back when we were working, and this was before Trump was put into office the first time. I just told him, I said, I'm seeing our country starting to do a flip and go from one direction. I said, it ain't moving real slow that way, but it's getting there. And all of a sudden, here we are in 25, where it has gone over, and the left keeps thinking, well, was somebody, a redheaded comedian, Kathy.
Oh, Griffin,
was saying, oh, if only Taylor Swift would have done more concerts for Kamala, that would have put it over the edge. They don't get it.
No, they don't get it.
You can have a concert, and nobody's listening to the celebs anymore. They were trotting them out, and nobody give a flying rip. Don't care, not listening.
I see a lot of people online anyway, and some of them are my wife's friends, and some of them are people that we used to live near. But it's like their hatred for Trump is so strong that it's like they disregard all kinds of common sense or any kind of just any kind of semblance of normalcy with this. It's like Trump is just the devil, and you cannot tell them any different. And it doesn't.
Well, that's he wasn't. He was all their best buddies when he was in the Hollywood stuff with the Apprentice and all those things.
Or when he campaigned for Jesse Jackson years ago. So
he was running as a Republican. Oh, now he's evil. You know, they're still saying things. Oh, this is the guy that you voted in, and he's going to just do all this, and we're going to be a dictatorship. Oh, shut up. Not any worse than we've already been in the last 4 years.
And we know dictatorships, apparently, because we've seen quite a bit of leaning that direction. Hey, when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about the executive orders that Trump put out yesterday, and they were those fast and furious. I think Richard said he saw there was 200 of them.
He was supposed to be doing 200. I went.
We are not going to go through all 200. We got some bullet points that we'll go over, but so hang in there. We'll be right back.
When Uncle Joe was asked what he thought of Mike and Richard, he said,
"These are the kind of guys you like to smack in the ass."
We'll take that as a compliment. Stay off my lawn. We'll be right back.
Can I take your order?
I can't see you anymore.
Wow, this is really sudden. Why?
Well, your burgers are horrible for my health and energy. Your sodas are eating my teeth enamel. And supersizing, no one should put away that many fries at one meal.
Hey, I can change. I can add some fruit to my menu and a nice, thick, syrupy sauce.
No.
Help your kids break off their fast food relationships.
Hey, have some fries and let's talk about it.
See ya.
Well, I mean, if I hide it too well, then I'll never find it. Welcome back.
We were right in our normal path there.
Welcome back to Stay Off My Lawn, segment 2. I can count that high. And I've got.
That's more than, let's see, that's divided by the. Yep, that's more than one.
More than one, yes. I think that category is quite large too, though. The first round of executive orders from Trump came out yesterday and have the lefties' panties in a wad as expected.
Their knickers were truly in a knot.
Yes, they were. He pardoned roughly 1,500 January 6th defendants, which is fantastic. A lot of those people have been jailed without cause, trampling. Is that a word? Stomping and trampling. It's the two words put together.
Okay.
Trampling. They pardoned their Fourth Amendment rights. Anyway, were destroyed, and hopefully, you said that they're going to sue the government.
There's a lawsuit. Obviously, class action because there's so many of them, and it's only a $50 billion lawsuit against the members of the January 6th committee, against the federal government, the DOJ, and the FBI. And I forget, there was one other thing, but it was encompassing basically everybody who was that put them in essentially put them in prison as a political prisoner because they were never charged with anything. So they couldn't have a lawyer go to court with them on stuff. Only a handful actually went to court.
Right.
And they've all been pardoned as well because they didn't really do anything. It was a giant setup. And there was somebody just 2 days ago that I read, I believe it was, that was a Capitol officer, Capitol security, whatever.
Yeah.
And he said, "Oh, this was all set up."
Ain't that something, boy? I mean, but I'm curious.
Pelosi was one of them as well.
Oh, I'm sure.
She was one of
I'm sure she's
that was on the list.
And
That's who it was.
There was a lot of hip pain and vodka. We're working on that, but I got to think now that Biden gave the whole January 6th committee pardons. Does that include civil lawsuits like this one? Would that pardon them from that kind of prosecution, or is that just only criminal prosecution? I don't know the answer to that.
I don't either. I'm not a lawyer. I only pretend to be one when somebody asks me a question that I'm semi-familiar with. This one, I haven't got a clue. Do I look like I got a law degree? What's wrong with you?
But I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night.
It's we're getting back to the amnesty thing again, where I don't know that it would preemptively do anything that way. That's what we're talking about with all the Biden pardons that were anything from this specific date to this specific date. Funny, that's really odd that you've got a 10, 12-year swing there. How come?
There's got to be a reason. It's going back to 2014 for his whole family. It's not just Hunter anymore. So, yeah.
Oh, they just did a raid on somebody an official in Ukraine, and in his house was they opened a drawer and it's just stacked full of American currency.
Really?
Stuffed to the top. Dresser drawers where there's 4 drawers, nothing but cash.
Unfortunately, I'm not surprised. I mean, it was there. I think they were voted years ago as one of the most corrupt countries on the planet. So I mean, so nothing should really surprise anybody at this point. But other executive orders, he ended birthright citizenship for children of undocumented illegal immigrants. I guess he's going to face some 14th Amendment resistance on that, and I don't think the 14th Amendment really speaks to that specifically. So it'll be fought out in court. So But I do like that whole idea, because people do cross the border as pregnant just so they can stay because their child was born here. Now, how often that happens, I don't know.
At one time it was rather prevalent, and with way things have been going on lately and nobody being told about it, it could be very prevalent right now as well.
And really, if they're coming over illegally and nobody knows that they're here, they could just say that their child was born while they were here. And it's like, I mean, if it was born outside of a hospital, how could you prove otherwise?
Yeah. And they, speaking of coming over the border issues, there's been so much news trying to remember bits and pieces and everything that's going along is there were folks waiting to have their hearing, whatever, with that app that Biden and them put out on their phones. They shut it off yesterday.
Did they?
And they're going, I don't have my meeting anymore. Well, you weren't here legitimately anyway.
The meeting a lot of times is 5-6 years out anyway. They're never going to show up. I mean, how I'd like to know how often those people actually show up that have those meetings or the hearing 4 or 5 years out. I mean,
between nil and none. Yeah, the percent is so small, it's ridiculous. And I heard something about that they were working at trying to shut off the phones as well, because a lot of them, word got out as soon as they got across the border. The term is jailbreaking the phones, and they were no longer, it was
trackable,
just like anybody else's phone.
Yep.
They had word, and how this stuff, word of mouth gets around, or this is how you do it. Okay. Now you've got a regular phone that was just handed to you.
That's why there's so many countries, so many people from so many countries, from Yemen and Syria and everything, crossing the border into California. I mean, how does that happen? That's not,
That's a long walk.
That's not asylum.
I'm just saying.
Asylum, there's specific rules for asylum, and that's outside of those rules. So, yeah.
Yeah. And it's called invasion, and they're going to be putting troops down on because it's an emergency of invasion. So they're being put down there as well.
And because of
he also declared, since we were talking about Trump and executive orders, that the cartels are now terrorist organizations.
Oh, really? I did not see that one. Okay,
Yep.
Good. He also made it easier to fire federal employees because of all the corruption in all these 3-letter agencies, and you got to be able to get rid of these people if they're not loyal to the country, and that's what it's all about. We need
the 51 who signed the deal that they essentially perjured, and their security clearances has all been revoked.
Talking about the Hunter laptop thing, where they came out and said that has all the earmarks of Russian disinformation. Yeah.
I thought I said it, but I didn't. I said it to myself, and you just couldn't hear it.
That's why I'm here. He declared a national emergency to increase drilling for oil, which is a wonderful thing. We are also leaving the WHO, which is a long time in coming.
$500 million a year.
Yeah, for nothing. And their mismanagement of COVID was off the charts bad.
Well, and that they have sovereignty over our nation to come in, and if there's a medical emergency worldwide that way, to tell us how we have to handle it.
Not anymore. No. Not anymore. He did actually rename the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America, and Mount Denali back to Mount McKinley, which I did not know. Barack Obama actually changed that from Mount McKinley to Mount Denali. I think it was in 2000.
Why?
2005.
What was the reason for that? I don't get it.
I don't either. It was 2015. Yeah, I don't know. I don't either. But I think it's because McKinley was an American president, and we just don't like honoring these old white men. That's all I can figure. I don't understand what the reason was either.
I'm with you. It's like, huh?
Yeah, I don't know. And my favorite, we are out of the Paris Accords, which is going to save us a lot of money, and of course, they were trying to mandate
Paris climate. You got to put that word in there. The Paris Climate Accord.
Paris climate weirdos. Yeah, let's go with that.
It's like no, and there's more and more stuff that's coming out, and you're not taxing us for that garbage anymore because it's just nothing but BS. Do you think this little blue ball going around the sun for however many billions of years that it's been around has never changed in its lifetime? Would you like to explain to me how cold-blooded mammals and Montana, for whatever ungodly reason, is loaded with dinosaur bones?
Yeah.
Well, Montana, if you haven't been there in the wintertime,
it's a little cold.
You better have a warm coat, among other things.
But, and they've proven that the CO2 levels were off the charts big back in during the Ice Age and everything. So it's like, and that's the only reason that it started warming up is when the CO2 levels rose. And supposedly there wasn't hardly any people, if there was any people at all back then. I mean, it certainly wasn't because they were driving they weren't driving the Teslas and the Nissan Leafs. I mean,
well, and those Fred Flintstone cars don't have to put out a lot of emissions. Unless, of course, they had chili the night before. I mean, just saying.
Fred always looked like he was probably spurting out some chili remnants.
Had some emissions of his own.
Yes, I'm sure he did. So anyway, there's been a lot of progress, I think, in some of these executive orders. Like you said, 200 in all, and I think that's going to be just the tip of the iceberg. And we had to undo a lot of stuff that Biden tried to do. So
tried to turn us into a communist country, and the people finally just went no.
Yeah,
it's not. They were taking away rights faster than you could figure out what it was they were trying to take away.
Absolutely.
And it's finally just come to the point where no, we're just not doing this anymore.
No. But I mean, again, I think it's more like, and this has been said a lot yesterday. If you watched any of the inauguration, even the ABC, because that was the only thing I had, was the ABC people were going, he's trying to go back to common sense. He's trying that's what his idea is, to go back to common sense. And really, that's what it's all about. And we'll talk about Title IX later, and that went back to common sense. Is just all kinds of stuff that most of the country is like going, Do what? We've got these dirty books in schools, and we've got drag queens dancing in front of kids at school. Those kind of things make no common sense. And like I said, the Title IX thing, biological men have no place in women's sports. But and easily 80% of the country believes the same way. Democrat or Republican.
87% of all counties voted red. 87%. So there's your little pockets wherever the big cities are.
Yep.
That's where your educated people, we've got a paper says we're educated. You've been to the indoctrination center, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, good for you.
Oh, and I love the condescending attitude. And you see it on social media all the time. Well, you sound just like you're uneducated, or you sound like you Trump supporters are all just sheep. And it's like, talk about sheep. I mean, Richard and I pride ourselves on thinking for ourselves. If I disagree with Trump, I got no problem saying it. If any politician that I end up liking or has the same designation as Republican as I do, if they say things that I don't agree with, and I have no problem calling that out. But that's just called thinking for yourself. That's what we've lost in this country. Is thinking for yourself. Why wouldn't you?
Oh.
Anyway, Mike Johnson was giving an interview the other day. He recalled an interaction that he had with good old Uncle Joe. Uncle Joe about a year ago. Is too good not to share on this day of new beginnings here in this country, and leaving this kind of idiocy behind. But this is why I think that Biden got voted out of office, is because of these kind of things we assumed was happening behind the scenes. We're going to get a glimpse of what goes on behind the scenes. Here's Mike Johnson talking about that.
Real quickly, Mr. President, can I ask you a question? I cannot answer this from my constituents in Louisiana. Sir, why did you pause LNG exports to Europe? I don't understand. Liquefied natural gas is in great demand by our allies. Why would you do that? Because you understand, we just talked about Ukraine. You understand you're fueling Vladimir Putin's war machine because they got to get their gas from him, And he looks at me, stunned with this, and he said, I didn't do that. And I said, Mr. President, yes, you did. It was an executive order 3 weeks ago. And he goes, no, I didn't do that. And he's arguing with me. I said, Mr. President, respectfully, could I go out here and ask your secretary to print it out? We'll read it together. You definitely did that. And he goes, oh, you talk about natural gas. Yes, sir. He said, no, you misunderstand. He said, what I did is I signed this thing we're gonna conduct a study on the effects of LNG. I said, no, you're not, sir. You paused it. I know. I have the export terminals in my state. I talked to those people this morning. This is doing massive damage to our economy, national security. It occurred to me, Barry, he was not lying to me. He genuinely did not know what he had signed. And I walked out of that meeting with fear and loathing because I thought, we're in serious trouble. Who is running the country? I don't know who put the paper in front of him, but he didn't know.
I think that happened a lot. Whoever was running the show behind the scenes. I don't know.
Yeah, a lot of assistants and interns, and we can put this in front of him. We'll tell him that he'll sign anything we give him. He don't read it,
and he did. Yeah, because I think he reads about as good as he speaks. I don't think it goes very well. But that's kind of scary though. If he put out something, they told him it was one thing, but it was completely something different. That's scary. That means that he could be so easily manipulated, and he was.
And exceedingly was, and it was getting worse and worse. When they came on, announced the different people at the inauguration, you know who got the biggest boos? Obama.
Oh, did he really?
They just about booed him off the stage. And Hillary, not good reception from the Clintons either in the crowd. Didn't want anything to do with them. And there was somebody else that was got heavy boos, but those two were the worst by far. Was Obama.
But George W. Bush was kind of, he didn't clap, he didn't stand, he didn't do nothing. He was just a Democrat.
He's not thought of very highly
right
now anymore either.
I don't think so either. But you saw Michelle was not there with Barack. She wasn't there at the at Jimmy Carter's funeral either. Supposedly, the rumor is that she didn't want to sit next to Trump. And so she just said, nope.
Or they said there was a scheduling conflict. It's like, no, the 20th has always been there. There's no conflict with that at all.
Somebody said she had a prostate
exam. And she's about as far away as you can go. She's in Hawaii. Yeah. He, it, whatever, is in Hawaii.
Well, maybe that's where her urologist is, and she had a prostate exam. I mean, we just don't.
It's time for the prostate exam.
We just don't know what's going on. Oh my gosh. Anyway, we're up against another break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about the Senate confirmation hearings from last week. A lot of fireworks from that. So we'll talk about that when we come back. Hang in there.
The Stay Off My Lawn podcast will be right back.
Americans for the Arts is shining a light on how creative expression and opportunities can shape communities and foster leadership and confidence. And it is our mission to gather support and resources for those individuals waiting behind the curtain for their chance to shine. Find out how your business can play a part at americansforthearts.org.
Welcome back to Stay Off My Lawn, segment 3. We're just past halftime. Hey, there we go. It's halftime.
We got too much stuff to go.
We do have
so far behind.
I know, I've got a headache just thinking about it. The Senate confirmation hearings have continued, and the votes. I think they voted for Hegseth yesterday. I think he got through at least part of it. I think the Senate.
He got moved on.
Yeah,
whatever.
Whatever.
And there was some. Folks had their actual confirmations. Does it go to another committee that votes 7 to 8 or 8 to 7 or some such?
I don't know.
Was reading the numbers and I'm going, what? I don't understand how that works.
I don't know either. So I'm not going to even try to. I don't know. I don't think it goes to the House. I think it all sits in the Senate. Does it not?
Right.
Yeah. So
but it's not like the whole Senate has to pass, or that may have been who was on the committee.
I think it's on the committee. Yeah. And then it goes on to the whole Senate. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think he's got the votes. I think pretty much everybody is going to get through. Anyway, Adam Schiff was trying to trap Pam Bondi, which I was just talking to a family member about this the other day through text messages and saying that, she wasn't answering the question, but it was from what I understand if this was the question that he was talking about, this question was kind of a gotcha. They can't let the 2020 election go. They just keep bringing it back up, and Pam Bondi's just way too smart. By the way, I don't know if we mentioned this last week, but Pam Bondi is 59 years old. She is
really.
It's incredible. It's incredible.
I wouldn't have guessed she was much into her 40s.
Yeah. But I think I might have said this off the air. I don't remember if I said it on the air or not. But it's like some people age like wine, like she did. I age like yogurt. But I mean,
I'm more like spoiled milk.
Yes, exactly. You age like milk. But anyway, here's Pam. Getting out of the gotcha question and actually turning it around and slapping him a little bit on the way California is. So here she goes.
So let me ask you a different question. It also requires you, if you're going to be a good attorney general, to be able to tell hard truths to the president. So my questions now are, can you tell hard truths to the president? So let me start with an easy truth that you could speak to the president. Can you tell him that Donald Trump lost the 2020 election? Can you say that? Do you have the independence to say that? Do you have the gravitas, the stature, the intestinal fortitude to say, Donald Trump, you lost the 2020 election? Can you tell us that here today?
Senator, what I can tell you is I will never play politics. You're trying to engage me in a gotcha. I won't do it. I won't play politics with any ongoing investigation.
So let me ask you another.
Like you did leaking your colleague Devin Nunes's memo.
If you can't answer the question, let me ask you a different, what should be a simple truth, not a hard one. Was there massive fraud affecting the result of the 2020 election, yes or no?
Senator, I'm glad you asked that question. If you'll let me answer what I saw in Pennsylvania.
No, I asked a simple question about massive fraud.
I can only tell you what I saw in Pennsylvania.
I know you want to answer a different question, but my question is, can you tell us whether there was massive fraud affecting the results of the 2020 election, yes or no? Was there or was there not?
I can tell you what I saw when I went as an advocate to the campaign.
That's not my question. So you can't answer that question. You can't speak that even easy truth to us, let alone to the president. So let me ask you a different question. It will also be important that you give good advice to the president. Are you prepared to advise the president not to pardon people who beat police officers?
Senator, as I said, the pardons are at the direction of the president. We will look and we will advise. I will look at every case on a case. Let me finish. On a case-by-case basis.
Okay, good.
I abhor violence to police officers.
Follow up with that. So will it be your advice to the president, Mr. President, I know you said you want to issue hundreds of pardons on day one. Will it be your advice to the president? No, Mr. President, I need to go over them on a case-by-case basis. Do not issue blanket pardons. Will that be your advice to the president?
Senator, I have not looked at any of those files. If confirmed, I will look at the files.
And will you be able to review hundreds of cases on day one?
I will look at every file I am asked to look at.
Of course you won't. So will you advise the president?
Can I answer the question?
Well, my question is,
I would have plenty of staff. You said, of course you want.
You'll be able to review hundreds of cases on the first day?
I'm not going to mislead this body nor you.
All right, let me ask another question. You don't want to answer that. Let me ask another question.
You were censured by Congress, Senator, for comments just like this that are so reckless.
You were she really held her own. I like her.
I like that one. This is why you were censured in Congress for just this type of. Yeah, it's like you didn't answer it with the words I wanted you to answer, so therefore you can't answer.
Right.
No, she thinks for herself, and she's not allowing you to. No, he was trying to bully her, and no, she is not one to be bullied.
He's such an arrogant weasel. I mean, he
just disgusting.
Watching and listening to him, you almost feel like your testosterone drops or something, because he's just such a girly man. I mean, come on. You're just
on the
such
slime
a weasel.
trail everywhere he goes is just disgusting what he leaves behind.
It really is.
Anyway,
there were more fireworks as Pete Hegseth faced Senator Tim Kaine. Which, why does he always look? He's like Boris Johnson. He looks like he just got out of a convertible. What happened to his hair? I mean,
out of bed and it's like, I don't need to look in the mirror.
I'm losing my hair too, but at least I run a brush through it after I get out of the shower. What the heck is wrong with these people? Anyway, he's only a senator, whatever. But anyway, he asked Pete Hegseth some rather personal questions. I don't know if it was really appropriate to ask some of these things. What difference does it make? But here's News Nation's Chris Cuomo, who's really kind of like become a journalist. It's kind of weird. He's somehow gotten the infusion of common sense once he left CNN. I think maybe that was part of it. But this is Chris Cuomo about some of that question.
What questions would you have for a potential Secretary of Defense? What are you going to do about China, Russia, terror, Pentagon size, drones? Or would your top concern be his marriage? Is your biggest fear that an army of trans folk are going to take over? Because those were the concerns that the most deliberative body in the world focused on today. Here is the moment that Democrats are choosing to send around the internet as their big win. Senator Tim Kaine giving Hegseth the Bill Clinton.
I want to return to the incident that you referenced a minute ago that occurred in Monterey, California in October 2017. At that time, you were still married to your second wife, correct?
I believe so.
And you had just fathered a child by a woman who would later become your third wife, correct?
Senator, I was falsely charged, fully investigated, and completely cleared.
So you think you were completely cleared because you committed no crime. That's your definition of cleared? You had just fathered a child 2 months before by a woman that was not your wife. I assume that in each of your weddings, you've pledged to be faithful to your wife. You've taken an oath to do that, haven't you?
Senator, as I've acknowledged to everyone in this committee, I'm not a perfect person, not claiming to be.
But no, I just asked a simple question. You've taken an oath like you would take an oath to be Secretary of Defense in all of your weddings to be faithful to your wife. Is that correct?
I have failed in things in my life, and thankfully I'm redeemed by my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ.
So because of his marriage, he can't be trusted with the oath of office? 2 points of disgust. How many people on that committee, how many in Congress could pass the Kaine test that you can't honor an oath to serve if you've ever been unfaithful? Kaine may be sitting in that room alone. Who cares when we are talking about being the top warrior, not our pastor? I'll tell you who agreed with me once about this. Tim Kaine. He supported Bill Clinton for president. He didn't say he couldn't serve despite all he knew about his peccadillos. He still backed him. Why? Is president not as important an oath? So what changed? You know, a bipartisan National Security Commission found we are not ready for war with China or Russia. Do you know that? They suggested our technology and our inventory are a question mark. Recruitment across the armed services, weak. Cyber attacks crushing us increasingly. Trump hinting he wants to pull out of Syria and other areas in the region. All these big things flying around, including over military bases. No one can explain it. And this guy, who has never led anything like a federal agency, is up for a job over the biggest war machine in the world that is one of the largest employers in the federal government. And Tim Kaine wants to talk to him to exhaustion about his marriage. None of the things that I just mentioned in any depth. That matters more than what he's going to do with half the money America lays out in discretionary spending?
I think it's very good points. I mean, he makes excellent points. And certainly,
I saw that and went, I hate to say this, but I agree with him. Where did he come from? Is that really him or a deep fake? Which is
it doesn't. I never thought I'd say it either, but he was absolutely right about that. And we certainly don't use the word picadillo enough. I really need to write that down.
Yes.
I like that word.
The Democrats are just being raked over the coals. Did you have something from? That's terrible. I can't remember. Warren. All I can think of is Pocahontas. Do you have? Did you have a clip from her?
Yes, I do. I've got another one before that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just was going. I won't say anything about her stuff then until it comes up.
Now,
since are taking forever.
Since Hegseth will run the DOD, he was asked about what he's going to do about the members of the military who lost their jobs for refusing to take the experimental jab for a virus that truly only affected the elderly, the sickly, the people who have issues already. Certainly not the young, tough members of our great military. So here's that exchange.
8,000 well-trained men and women were fired. Will you commit today, Mr. Hegseth, to recruit these folks back, to give them back pay, and give them an apology from the United States government for how they were disrespected?
Senator, I will commit to this because the Commander-in-Chief has committed to this, that not only will they be reinstated, they will receive an apology, back pay, and rank that they lost because they were forced out due to an experimental vaccine.
I love that. Gosh, that's one of my favorite things that's going to
Yeah,
happen.
that was one thing that Trump mentioned yesterday as well, that was going to be done.
Yep.
So,
and of course, Elizabeth Warren, like we alluded to, didn't miss a chance to put her foot in her mouth. And Tommy Tuberville put in the voiceover world, we call it a button. But he actually put a little exclamation point. Is what it's sort of like a button is kind of like at the end of a commercial. Somebody says something that's kind of funny and it has anyway, it's kind of an exclamation point. And I love Tommy Tuberville. But anyway, here's how Elizabeth Warren made her breath smell like socks.
You're quite sure that every general who serves should not go directly into the defense industry for 10 years. You're not willing to make that same pledge?
I'm not a general, Senator.
You'll be the one, let us just be clear, in charge of the generals. So you're saying sauce for the goose, but certainly not sauce for the gander?
I would want to see what the policy of the president
I'll
is.
bet you would.
Thank you, Senator Warren. Senator Tuberville.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thanks for your hard work and your committee's hard work, Mr. Chairman. This has gone well. I'd like to submit this letter, topic conduct at Vets for Freedom for Hegseth. I'd like to submit that for the record, please.
Without objection.
Mr. Hegseth, thanks for being here today and with your family. I know this is tough. That's what it's all about, though. You're a tough guy.
I love Tommy Tuberville. He just
and it didn't seem to faze her at all that the whole gallery was laughing at her.
She just picked up the shovel and started digging.
She said they were laughing at her, not with her, at her.
Yes.
I do stupid things, but I expect to be laughed with me. You're not laughing at me. You're laughing with me.
Exactly. Because I laugh at myself when I make a mistake because we all make mistakes. Why wouldn't you? But yeah, she was just, but you're right. She didn't skip a beat. She just kind of kept going. It's like, and she just, again, it's that arrogance that Adam Schiff likes to put out there. It's like, I'm smarter than you. So whatever you think you're laughing at.
She's not smarter than
oh my gosh,
anybody else in the room. Good Lord Almighty.
I don't think so either. We are actually a little bit early for a break, but let's do that because we may go over in the last section here. So
what? That never happens.
Not
Are
us.
you serious?
We've been bad about going over an hour, so we're going to try to fix that. When we come back, we're going to hear from Tucker Carlson talking about some of that where some of that $200 billion in war equipment and money have gone to over in Ukraine. So hang in there. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. More of the Stay Off My Lawn podcast is coming up.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting a Teenager. Learning the lingo.
GOAT, G-O-A-T, acronym, stands for Greatest of All Time. As in, spaghetti sandwiches for dinner? They're my fave. Dad, you're the GOAT.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same. Visit adoptuskids.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
Hi, welcome back to Stay Off My Lawn, segment 4, and we're going to try to talk really, really fast to get through this, but no, we're not. We don't care about time. Time is made up. It doesn't matter. Prior to 1977, I mean, nobody knew about time. Anyway,
time is just a constraint from the man.
It's the man holding us down, dude. Dave's not here. I've had people ask me why I don't care about the people of Ukraine because of my opinion on this whole thing about Ukraine, that we should not be shoveling money over there, hand over fist. So how can I be so heartless? All that stuff to not support sending this. It was over $200 billion. And for a war that there's no way that Ukraine can win. And all it's doing is doing nothing but prolonging the conflict and causing these young men on both sides, which I think is a tragedy, to die. I mean, we're wiping out a whole generation of people in this whole, in that whole area, which is terrible. But Tucker Carlson has a more in-depth reason that this $200 billion is a terrible idea, and continuing it is an even worse idea. Here he is.
The thing that people don't in this country understand is that the Ukrainian military is selling about half of the arms they get from the United States into international black markets, and they're winding up in some cases with the drug cartels in Latin America. That's a fact. Okay, it's a fact, and you can buy them. And I spoke to someone who did buy some, actually, so I know this is a fact, and they're bragging about it. So they're selling conventional weapons, including weapon systems that are very dangerous and very destabilizing, that would make commercial air travel impossible, for example. And so what are they doing with the pathogens in those biolabs? And does the Biden administration have a manifest? Do they know exactly what's in those labs? And will they turn it over to the Trump administration so we can keep track of these things? And the answer is no, actually. The answer is no, I know this.
Wow.
So that's like the scariest thing that's ever happened. I think the Ukraine war has the potential to destabilize the world more than anything that's happened in my lifetime. What the hell? So that's why I'm saying this right now, because I hope this is widely disseminated, because I think it's like the scariest thing I've heard in a long, long time.
And hopefully that all kind of comes to an end. I know Mike Johnson, my big problem with Mike Johnson was once he became speaker, he did a big flip-flop on Ukraine, and now he wants to keep sending the money over there, which a lot of the rhinos in both houses of Congress want to continue that too. And you got to wonder.
How come? Let's see. We're going to vote for it, but you have to kick back this amount of money for our vote to count.
That's normally how it works.
Which, speaking of corruption and you were just mentioning that Ukraine is one of, and has been for eons, as long as I can remember, one of the most corrupt countries in the world. I believe he was with a police agency or something, but anyhow, some high-ranking mucky-muck actually posted online him rolling around in money on a bed, and he was under investigation anyway. So they did a raid on his home, and there was money till dresser drawers filled right to the top with as much cash as you could put in there. Every drawer they pulled out was just full of cash. Yeah. So don't tell me it's all going to the war effort. My eye. How did Zelensky come up with, I think he has 2-3 multi-million-dollar homes. He has a multi-million-dollar yacht. Where did all that money come from on $100,000 a year?
Well, we've got the same issue with our politicians, but but it's How did that happen? I think it was Glenn Beck. We talked about this about a year ago. I think that there's a video. Of course, it's been taken down off of YouTube now, which YouTube did that with us 2 weeks ago. Thank you very much, YouTube. We appreciate you. Big kiss right on the mouth. But supposedly they went to somebody went visiting to some resort in Spain, I think it was, and there was a bunch of cars like Bentleys and Rolls Royces and stuff with tags on the back from Ukraine. I mean, these were the high officials that had these fancy cars that a lot of them, I've never even seen one. I don't know if I've ever been in around a Rolls Royce or anything like that. So, I mean, there's just no way that a country that is impoverished the way it has been, and it's, I talk about oligarchies like Biden's worry about Trump having that.
And as the Democrats keep saying, that's what we're going to have in this country, and Biden is really worried about our we don't have a democracy. We have a constitutional republic.
You can't convince people of that, though. They keep going back to that democracy, and democracy is left. It was left out of all the founding documents on purpose. They warned about democracies. So, but nobody knows history anymore. So I don't know. Hopefully all that comes to an end. Hopefully that spigot that goes directly to Kiev gets dried up here pretty soon, because it needs to go away. And all this time, while Biden has tried to declare the 28th Amendment without any kind of legal backing, that it's not how amendments work. They a lot of things timed out, and by the time the last states ratified it, a lot of things timed out. Things have a time frame. So, and it's probably a whole lot more complicated than I understand. But you can't do that.
It's got to be ratified by 2/3 of the states, and then it also has to be ratified by the same amount in Congress to go through. It's putting an amendment on is not easy, and you can't do like Uncle Joe did. And the 28th Amendment is, yes, we have that in, and it's now the law of the land. No, you can't just decree it. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, exactly.
So one of the folks that I follow put a question in. They go, well, since he's decreeing amendments, what would you decree as an amendment? So I put mine in that every new member of the House or Senate must pass a constitutional test. They have to take a test just like you would to be an entrance exam going into law school or going into college. You've got to take the test, and you must be all done at the same time. And if you're caught cheating, you will not have a chance to take it again for 30 days, nor will you be seated in Congress until you pass that test.
I would bet you, and maybe I'm wrong, but I would bet you that there's a lot of people sitting in Congress, Senate and the House, that have never read the Constitution.
Oh, well, definitely the Democrats, they make up stuff all the time. And it's like, what? Every once in a while, they trot one out that they read from that benefits what they want to do or what they think would benefit them, but they also misinterpret what it says. So
there ought to be a constitutional amendment to make sure that they're in the reading room and right next to the commode where they're sitting there. They got to read it. That's all they can't read the Reader's Digest. They got to read the Constitution. I mean, at least they have a few minutes. It'll keep them off of Twitter anyway. We talked about earlier that Title IX was fixed, disallowing men to play in women's sports. Mike Johnson made that announcement, and of course, like I said, Mike Johnson's kind of changed a little bit since the inauguration yesterday. But
he's going back to his constitutional ways, which he started out doing, and then all of a sudden, I don't know whether somebody said we're not going to give you anything or we won't vote for any stuff. Here's some money, and if you steer it this way, we'll even give you more than that. I don't know.
That's the whole thing. I wanted to like him so much when he got elected speaker, but it's like this whole Ukraine thing, he did a huge flip-flop on, and I'm like, dude.
Not for that. My wife and I were talking about that yesterday. We don't trust him.
No, you can't trust somebody that flip-flops.
We keep looking at him with a cocked eye, as they say. Really? What are you going to do now?
I think we should look at all politicians like that. I look at Trump like that. I look at everybody like that. But anyway, here's Mike Johnson making that announcement about Title IX.
A great day for women in America. House Republicans have yet again stood up for women. Common sense. We know from Scripture and from nature that men are men and women are women, and men cannot become women. It's sad that we have to say that. It's a matter of biology. It's how we're made. It's estimated that more than 700 female athletes have been displaced by males in their women's sporting events. And that has resulted in more than 1,000 estimated medals, records, and scholarships intended for women going to men. Biological men competing against women also poses a threat to the safety of our girls. It's dangerous, it's unfair, it's a rejection of reality, just plain wrong. Today, the House voted to uphold common sense again. We voted to require all schools receiving federal funds to uphold the original meaning of Title IX and keep biological men out of women's sports.
So Riley Gaines and all those people that were fighting for that, bravo, you did a great job.
You're wrong. Yeah, and yesterday in one of the speeches that Trump gave, he was talking about this, and he said there are two sexes, male and female, period.
Yep. End of discussion.
That's it. Yep. Done.
As
Moving
it should
on.
Be. Yep.
So all this nonsense that's been going on and some of the silliness that, if you have an issue and you want to do whatever, that's fine, but you're not playing against other full-fledged women. That's not what's supposed to be happening.
And you could be ruining their future by pushing them out of medals that they could get, especially in high school, that they could get scholarships on.
Kind of thing is not good.
Yeah. It just, I don't understand how anybody can justify that even in their own head. So, but speaking of justification, YouTube threw us out 2 weeks ago, and I think it's going to happen again because of this clip coming up. We may get a 30-day ban on YouTube, which is going to really break my heart. With me and all my feelings. But anyway, the Malcolm Roberts is a senator from Queensland, Australia. He and many others are waking up to this whole CO2 net zero crap. Here he is speaking out on the.
He's awesome.
Awesome.
He's getting even more to the point. I love listening to him.
I do too. He's another one that's fearless and like Polyev, the guy up in Canada. They don't care. They don't care what people say or what they think. They're going to speak their mind. They're going to speak common sense. But anyway, here he is talking about the CO2 limitations being imposed on the Brits and trying to be spread all over the world. But here he is talking about that.
The UK has just concluded a trial of a personal carbon dioxide allowance, which, as the name implies, calculates how much carbon dioxide is produced annually in the UK and then divides that per person per day, then works out by how much that figure needs to fall in order to meet net zero goals. We have the white paper in my office that informed the trial. The whole concept of a daily carbon dioxide allowance is now out there for all to see. Conspiracy theory no more. I bloody told you so. To anyone who is advised by data and empirical evidence, not mass formation psychosis, carbon dioxide is the gas of life, necessary for all life on Earth. It's plant food. The more CO2 produced, the more food, plants and trees the Earth is blessed with. The climate change scam is not founded on science, it's founded on feelings. It has become a religion for those who consider themselves above religion, and increasingly amongst those who could do with having some religion in their lives. Australia's agricultural sector, rural communities, $100 billion of agricultural production and hundreds of thousands of jobs are about to be sacrificed on the altar of climate fraud. Driven by globalist politicians, directed by parasitic billionaires who will benefit from this criminal enterprise, including Coca-Cola, who sponsored the trial. Coca-Cola is the world's largest producer of plastic, 120 billion single-use plastic bottles each year, holding their toxic sludge and producing 15 million tonnes of carbon dioxide. So their support for this white paper and trial is nothing short of greenwashing. Coca-Cola's leading shareholders are Warren Buffett of Berkshire Hathaway, as well as BlackRock, Vanguard and State Street. These wealth funds invest on behalf of the world's predatory billionaires who will profit from a carbon dioxide allowance.
I just thought about this. Coke has a lot of CO2 infused in their drinks.
Yes, they do. I'd like to know where they're going to get that from if you're not making it. Oh, no. Did you buy your carbon stuff? I love the parasitic billionaires.
I love it. You know,
he's just not kind of like Trump's speech yesterday with Biden about 6 feet from him. He was just ripping up this last 4 years, one side down the other. It's just an atrocity what happened to this country.
People are getting more fearless. I think they are taking some of their notes from Trump and Pierre Poilievre up in Canada. You got the guy from Argentina. I can't think of his name off the top of my head. You've got the guy from
Malier? No.
Something like that.
Something like that.
The Georgia lady from Italy. Of course, the guy from Hungary. I mean, everybody's kind of like there's a wave coming. Things are kind of everybody's speaking their mind. I think it's a great thing. But anyway. So we do have a palate cleanser, which we probably need one very, very badly today. This one,
and there's so many things we didn't cover.
Oh, I know. But this one's about a baby that you're not going to know who this is at the beginning, but try to guess. Here we go. This is Paul Harvey and the rest of the story.
Now, the rest of the story. One cold, foggy morning in February, a London housewife named Sarah gave birth to a second child. And upon hearing the doctor announce it's a girl, Sarah smiled and then lapsed into unconsciousness. When she awakened, a nurse was nearby. Was the baby healthy, Sarah asked. The answer was yes. How much did the baby weigh? Sarah wanted to know. The answer was 8.5 pounds. And was she beautiful? The nurse was silent. Then Sarah, suddenly anxious, asked if she could see her baby, and the nurse said yes. Of course, she could, but she said Sarah had better maybe take some nourishment first. So Sarah gulped some broth, and the nurse brought in her little girl. As the tiny bundle was placed in her arms, Sarah gasped, because inside the cashmere shawl was, well, the funniest-looking little baby Sarah had ever seen. The infant had black hair, but some of it in the wrong places. For example, her ears were covered with thick black fuzz. The baby's ears were squashed into the sides of her head, and her nose was tipped out of kilter, and her tiny face was so tightly closed that it seemed that it would never unfold, and somehow, as only mothers can, Sarah blamed herself. Her own mother had told her, if you want a beautiful baby, keep your mind full of beautiful thoughts, and Sarah had done that all during her first pregnancy, and that first child, a little boy named Howard, now 3, was almost too beautiful for words. His hair was thick, a mass of golden ringlets, the eyes were long-lashed and heavenly blue, and his face was the face of a Botticelli angel. But this newly arrived little girl, oh my. Perhaps, Sarah pondered, she had been lazy and had not been thinking enough beautiful thoughts this time around. In any case, all she could do now was to protect her newborn from ridicule as best she could and pray that her long black hair would grow only where it was supposed to. Yet not even that prayer was answered, for before long the hair on the infant's ears had spread to her back and her arms, and the scrunched-up, funny little face grew funnier, and family and friends hardly helped matters. Over and over, Sarah would wince to hear, poor little girl. It's too bad that she isn't the boy and Howard the girl, and it was as though the baby knew. Days after her birth, she kept her eyes tightly closed, and for a year thereafter she refused to make a sound. But Mother Sarah grew determined that regardless of the baby's appearance, she would never want for love. And indeed, in Sarah's eyes, the child actually grew to be beautiful. And in the eyes of the world as well. You know the song, You Must Have Been a Beautiful Baby? Well, it ain't necessarily so. For it was not until later that the peculiar body hair from this little baby vanished, and the pearly teeth appeared, and intense violet eyes became prominent, and a human mosaic fell into place to produce one of the 20th century's most breathtaking women. Her mother thought that you'd ought to know, particularly if your own baby does not look quite like the ones in the television ads. Because her baby, Sarah Southern Taylor's baby, one day would be known the world over as the beautiful Elizabeth Taylor. Anyway, now you know the rest of the story.
Who would have ever guessed? Who would have ever guessed?
I kept going, well, who are they talking about? And then when he said the mom's name, I went, oh, no.
Taylor. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, you know, my granddaughters are absolutely beautiful, so I'm hoping they stay that way. But they are just they look like they could be models, so I'm hoping that all that stays that way. Then again, maybe if they get a little bit homely as they get older, maybe the boys will stay away a little while longer, which will make the old grandpa happy. Keep those boys away because I don't want to shoot anybody. I really don't. Anyway, we hope you were somewhat informed and had fun like we did. Don't forget you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, iHeart, Amazon Smart Speaker, or wherever. Certainly not YouTube this week, or wherever you get your podcasts. So,
and you'll find us every Thursday afternoon at 5 p.m. Eastern Time on the Oracle Talk Radio Network.com. You can enjoy us on the drive home. Get the apps. Apple and Android are now available, and you can listen to us that way. Or just go to our good old website at stayoffmylawn.us for all our past and present episodes.
Well, thanks for listening. We'll see you next week, folks.
Toodles! Thanks for listening. Well, we had fun and hope you did too. The opinions heard here today are not those of anyone other than Mike and Richard. If it made you laugh or go, or even, then we've done our job. Sort of. Well, mostly anyway. And if we made you think about things in a common sense manner, we welcome you to the club. And if it didn't, then just stay off my lawn. See you next time.